Hello, my name is Dan Scapel, and this is my review of Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. Now, Professor Marston, William Moulton Marston, if you will, is basically a professor at Harvard, and he works with his wife. And Luke Evans portrays William Moulton Marston, and Rebecca Hall plays his wife. Now, they have a little bit of an orthodox kind of relationship, but also, they're teachers. He's a teacher of psychology, and she's kind of like his co-professor, but she can't get any kind of, what you will, any kind of like traction or responsibility, because they don't look at her, his wife, as a kind of a colleague of his. So, she has to, Rebecca Hall's character, the wife, has to kind of be on the sidelines. So they both enlist this class that they're teaching. He's getting the credit for teaching the class, and she's kind of like his assistant teacher, to try to explore sexuality and different, what he calls disc theory, and some of these different ways of how men and women relate to one another, and how they can, interact with one another, why they do the different things they do as far as relationships and so forth like that. So one of the students, played by Bella Heathcote, volunteers to be their assistant. And wouldn't you know it, one thing leads to another, and there is a bond, a sexual bond between the professor, his wife, and her. And a lot of these different kinds of things that they're exploring in their relationship, love and sensuality and so forth, lead to them creating a comic book based on power, based on sexuality, based on strength, based on women's intuition, based on a powerful female character where they can express themselves. One day they just happen to go to this class, or this guy who owns this store, and he has a lot of different kind of items, and the items are just kind of things that lead to power, lead to strength, lead to sensuality and sexuality and so forth for the couple and their protege. And when the Bella Heathcote character dresses up, this gives William Moulton Marston, Professor Marston, the idea to create the Wonder Woman character and the Wonder Woman comic book. But first, he has to find an artist and a publisher. So they go to the local, kind of a big comic book publisher in New York, and the editor, or the guy that runs it, is played by Oliver Platt. And at first he doesn't like the idea, but then he's like, change the name to the Wonder Woman. It's like the Supreme of the Wonder Woman. They're like, nah, get rid of that name. Call her Wonder Woman. That's a better name. And so that's what he does. And one thing leads to another. They have success. Except, when success happens, people want to knock you down. When you're up, people want to knock you down. And of course, the women's and the code of decency of comic books at the time, in the 60s and the 40s, this is about 75, 80 years ago. So in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and there's a lot of kind of groups that were trying to take people to court over being a Nazi or decency things in movies and TV. They wanted to kind of keep things decent for all the kids growing up and so forth. And so the League for Decency brings them in, and he has to basically explain himself, why he has created one. What does it mean for women? What does it mean for little girls? What does it mean for people in general, and why it's so important that this character is out there in the ethos and being published by the comic book companies at the time. It wasn't DC Comics, but of course we know DC Comics ended up keeping Wonder Woman, and she became a very, very successul character for going on 80 years now, 75 plus years. And so I'll tell you what, this is an interesting story. I mean, some people are going to look at this and say, well, there's some sex scenes and some bondage scenes and things, but this is the origin of the character of Wonder Woman. This is the origin of the reason why Professor Marston, William Moulton Marston, came up with this character based on his life. And I look at the families in this world today, and you know, the mixed relationships and just the LGBT community and all the different things that go on with relationships and family. Whether it's wrong, whether it's right, you know, I'm not going to make a determination for people out there, but I think that this is a very interesting dynamic and dichotomy for a family. They ended up with 4 kids between the 3 of them, and you know, they loved one another, and those kids had loving parents, no matter how you look at the family. And I think Wonder Woman came from a good place. You know, I mean, I feel like Wonder Woman came from a place of love and care, and people that wanted to create a powerful woman, female character. And that's why this movie was really good to me. I really liked the performances. I hadn't really seen a whole lot of Bella Heathcote. She was fantastic in this film. Of course, Rebecca Hall and Luke Evans we've seen a few times before. So I'm going to give a big see it for Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. My name is Skip, and this has been my review of Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman.